Now, I'm going to ask Mara Kazako from WWF Romania. Mara, I think you've got some questions from the floor. Would you like to share those with us, please?
Yeah, of course. But before doing that, can I just say what an extraordinary piece of evidence that multi-actor platforms are really working and that research results are being transferred to the industry and already being tested. That is fantastic. I mean, congratulations.
It is. That's a real impact, actually.
Yeah. So we have 4 very different questions for each of the speakers. So we'll take them in turn and maybe we'll extend the duration of the session with 5 minutes. So if you think it's a good idea to finish at 3:35.
Let's do that. We started at 2:35.
Okay, perfect. So let's take them in turn. We have a question for Mihaela, which is about consumer awareness education, how to bring them closer to products which have benefits for the environment. How do you envisage to link consumers and producers in these type of positive systems?
Yes, thank you for, it's a good question. And yeah, first of all, the link between how to link the consumers with the producers is a key issue in our country. And I think that starting from our case study that I have in my mind, I think that the alternative food chain could be the solution to connect the producers with the consumers. I'm thinking in maybe small events and maybe local markets. And I also think that I already mentioned in my presentation that we need a new mindset for the consumers to understand that they can procure the food from the local markets. So could be small steps, let's say, but yeah, could have some benefits at the, let's say, local and regional level. I could also say that in terms of policy or legislation, we can work more on the public procurement legislation to take into account also the local needs and maybe some requirements to purchase a certain percent of the food to be locally sourced, or I don't know, something like that. And yeah, I think that the answer is to find informal ways, you know, to connect them in the first step.
Okay, thank you, Mihaela. Straight on point. David, you spoke about how multi-actor platforms function in the UK, and there seems to be a very intensive flow of communication in these networks. How do you plan on continuing to work with the multi-actor platform that you have established or supported? Or how do you intend to support it, maybe from a third-party standpoint, in order for it to stay alive?
Okay, thanks very much for that question, Mara. The characteristics of research in land-related issues in Scotland is that all organisations which have a role or a stakeholding are very closely connected in with the structures that for the last 20 years the Scottish Government have been developing. So Scottish Government has put in place structures which sound and look and feel very like multi-actor platforms. And there is a culture of working very closely together. I'll not pretend that that always works, nor of course that there aren't frictions and failures, but it is an expectation of government agencies and the research organisations that they will have to work together if it's in issues to do with land, water, environment, people within Scotland. Clearly that'd be different if it was work being done in other areas of the world by a Scottish organisation. So there is a culture there. I think the three elements I'll pick up are: one, we have other European projects. The Sherpa project, which is built on multi-actor platforms, is an example of science policy and society. And some of those actors are on the multi-actor platform for that project. So there's another carrier through on rural issues. The second is the one on open science. All the agencies and organisations have to begin to look at how to deliver on that. And therefore, there's going to be another driver for binding people together. But I think it would be fair to say that we need to do better in bringing in particular, communities and those that are hard to reach. So that would be disadvantaged young people and those of ethnic minorities. And there's a question over diversity within our platforms that we recognise and need to think through. So the platforms are working, I think, quite well, and there is that culture which is positive, but I wouldn't want to mislead you into thinking that we do not have quite a bit of work to try to do to make them better in their representation of all parts of society. Stop.
Thank you for this very insightful answer. We'll head now to that have been identified in the project, and this one we could cluster for both ALBA and CAISA. So one leg of this question would be if and how do you plan ALBA on implementing or following those strategies that you have identified in your map? And CAISA, with you, there's already a matter of these strategies being implemented, but you only talked about crop rotation and the linkage between the farmers that test this practice and the buyers of those goods. Are there any other diversification strategies that you have analyzed or you're planning on testing with your farmers?
Well, shall I start? Well, in our case, firstly, I think our role is more related to dissemination objectives. So I think it's not our role to implement directly the results or findings we are having in our case study. It's more a question of promoting the knowledge is based on the experience of our stakeholders, of our local map. So we will try to have an impact on policymakers and practitioners that the results we obtained arrive to these scenarios. What is we are trying to do it in different ways. It's remarkable the policy recommendations we are now writing in a policy brief that you will see in the following weeks in the policy briefs. And regarding the policy recommendations, I will highlight the measure 16.2 of the Rural Development Program. We identified that the Navarra government financed already 3 successful pilot projects within this measure 16.2, that solve the processing and marketing problems of small-sized agro-ecological farmers. And these 3 pilot projects are a monthly market for organic and local products, ALBA, which is a collection and sales center where the organic producer can sell and distribute their products, and a group of 15 organic cereal farmers who are setting now the infrastructure and machinery thanks of this measure. So this is the kind of activities we are trying to do. Like, this knowledge is known for everyone in Navarra, in Basque Country, but also in the European Union or other regions and countries.
Wonderful. Kaisa, would you like to continue?
Absolutely, thanks. Well, as you also could see in the map, the farms are very spread out and they do have very different conditions. For example, the population and then conflict over land, for example, or competition over land is much more prominent in the south, for example, than in the north, where there's more of an abundance of cropland that actually benefits very much from being retaken into cultivation rather than being forested. So the short answer is yes, that there's great diversity in the way that the farmers are diversifying. But one, for example, we've had one quite young dairy farmer, for example, and they've been quite dependent both on growing their own feed, but also purchasing feed. And they're trying then to increase the nutritional quality of their grass silage to actually be able to move to a more grass-based diet, even though they're often roughage-based, all of the ruminant diets in Sweden. But and that kind of frees up land that they can then grow crops on, in this case oats, that they sell for making oat milk. So they will both be delivering dairy milk and oat milk, which is one diversification strategy, both on field level, but also for the farm. It's, of course, also economically quite important.
Fantastic. David, would you like to wrap up now?
I think so. There's no other question in the chat, Mara, that you can see? I think not.
Yeah, I think we've covered them all. There was also a general question from Carmen, but I think, I don't know, our time is already up, so maybe we can answer to that in writing, because the chat will remain open.
Let's do that. Let's do that. And I'll thank Carmen for asking the question. We are going to take all the comments and questions and draw them together in the reporting and the sessions being recorded. So let's draw to a close. Thank you, Kaisa, Alba, Mihaela, and Mara for all your contributions and for the operations behind the scenes. Thanks for everyone for joining us. We've now got 20 minutes to stretch your legs physically, I hope. Have a look at the booths and then join in another session at 4 o'clock Brussels time, and it will be a rerun of the sessions that have taken place just now. So enjoy those and the opportunity, and I look forward to hearing and meeting some of you, or maybe all of you, in another forum. And with that, we'll close. Thank you very much.